You believe that mobility is freedom. You move from one glass and steel box to another, convinced that the ability to pack your life into a few suitcases and change your zip code on a whim is the pinnacle of modern liberation. You call yourself a nomad, but in the cold, unyielding language of biology, you are a vagrant. You are an organism without a territory, which means you are an organism without status, without security, and without a future. To the primitive reptilian core of your brain, a lack of own territory is a signal of terminal failure. In the wild, the animal that does not possess and defend a territory is a floater, a low-status individual that exists on the fringes, constantly vulnerable to predators, excluded from the breeding pool, and the first to perish when resources become scarce. By choosing to rent your shelter, your workspace, and your digital presence, you are voluntarily entering a state of biological serfdom. You are paying a life tax to a master for the temporary privilege of existing on their land. You are a host providing a steady stream of energy to a landlord parasite, and in exchange, you receive nothing but a stay of execution. You are building someone else's fortress while your own architecture rots. This is the territorial instinct, and your refusal to honor it is the primary reason your nervous system is trapped in a state of high-frequency anxiety. You are a serf in a summer suit, and you are currently being harvested. Let us dissect the biology of ownership. Territory is not merely a piece of ground. It is a cognitive externalization of your sovereignty. When an apex predator marks its territory, it is creating a zone where its internal laws are the only laws that matter. Within those borders, the animal's cortisol levels drop, its testosterone rises, and its OODA loop, observe, orient, decide, act, operates with maximum efficiency because it is not wasting energy on the stress of the unknown. Ownership provides the biological baseline required for high-level strategy. When you own your territory, you are no longer in a state of reaction. You are the architect of the environment. The nice guy, however, has been conditioned to fear the responsibility of ownership. He believes the social lie that renting is flexible. He doesn't realize that flexibility is just a euphemism for instability. Every month that you pay rent, you are performing a biological surrender. You are acknowledging that you are a guest in the world, subject to the whims, the price hikes, and the eviction notices of those who were cold enough to claim the earth. You are a transient biological unit, and your lack of a fixed route is causing a slow-motion collapse of your mental clarity. You are a ghost wandering through someone else's dream. Consider the pathology of the tenant. A tenant is a biological subordinate by definition. You live in a space where you are forbidden from altering the environment to suit your own predatory needs. You cannot harden the perimeter, you cannot optimize the layout for your mission, and you cannot build permanent systems of dominance. You are existing in a standardized scenario designed by a corporation or a landlord to extract the maximum profit from the minimum space. This environment is sterile to your instincts. It doesn't smell like you, it doesn't look like you, and it doesn't belong to you. This creates a state of chronic displacement stress. Your brain is constantly scanning for the exit because it knows on a cellular level that this is not home. It is a cage you are paying to inhabit. This stress bleeds into your work, your relationships, and your health. You are incapable of the long hunt because you are constantly worried about the next lease renewal. You are a short-time preference organism, living week to week, month to month, while the owners are thinking in generations. You are a biological pawn, and your nomadic freedom is actually a tether that keeps you exactly where the system wants you, dependent, exposed, and easily harvested. The masses are currently digital and physical serfs. They rent their homes, they lease their cars, and they subscribe to the software that runs their lives. They own nothing, and they are being told that they should be happy about it. This is the ultimate predatory reframing. If you do not own the tools of your existence, you are a servant to those who do. In 2026, territory is no longer just physical, it is digital real estate. Your attention, your data, and your online presence are the new savannas. If you are building your influence on rented platforms without a sovereign backup, you are a digital sharecropper. You are planting crops in a field that can be seized at any moment by a corporate algorithm. You are working for likes that are the modern equivalent of company script, currency that only has value within the master store. To move from a serf to a sovereign, you must first priznai, ishtotizavias, admit that you are currently a landless peasant in both the physical and digital worlds. You must recognize that your flexibility is a shackle and that your subscription life is a slow-motion bankruptcy of your sovereignty. The first movement of the territorial hunt is the clinical audit of possession. You must look at every aspect of your life and identify what you truly own. If it can be taken away by a terms of service update or a missed payment to a landlord, you don't own it, it owns you. You must begin to secure the route. This doesn't mean you need to buy a mansion today. It means you must shift your biological orientation toward the acquisition of hard assets. You must prioritize the fortress over the feast. Every dollar you spend on renting a vibe is a dollar stolen from your future kingdom. You must have the coldness to live in a cell that you own rather than a palace that you rent. This is the standard of the sovereign. You must realize that blind repetition of other people's scenarios, the scenario of the lifelong renter, the subscriber, the consumer, is a path to a graveyard where you won't even own the plot. You are a unique biological organism, and your survival requires you to stake a claim. If you wait for the world to give you a territory, you will wait until you are recycled. Finally, we must talk about the sovereignty of digital land. For those of you who realize that the physical ground is already occupied by the giants, the digital frontier is your only remaining hunt. But you must not be a tenant on the digital savannah. You must build systems that you own. This is where the protocol 260 becomes your primary weapon. It is a structured route designed to help you build YouTube AI empires that act as your sovereign digital territory. While the masses are renting their attention to social media giants, you are using those giants to harvest energy and funnel it into your own fortress. You are using the algorithms of 2026 to secure a cash-flowing kingdom that no landlord can take from you. You are moving from the tenant mindset to the owner mindset. You are realizing that samomune vitashchit, that you cannot fight the economic winter as a landless serf. You need the strogo opisani marshrat to move from a state of vagrancy to a state of absolute territory-backed power. Stand up, stop paying for the air you breathe, fix your gaze on the territory, and start building your wall before the master raises the rent again. The transition from a tenant to a sovereign is not a move between legal categories. It is a fundamental shift in your biological frequency. Ownership is a state of existence before it is a deed held in a vault. Most of you are currently living in a state of psychological squatting. You occupy a body you do not control, you follow a career path you did not design, and you inhabit a physical space where you are merely a guest. You have a tenant mindset, a neurochemical configuration characterized by high reactivity, constant scanning for external approval, and a deep-seated fear of making a permanent mark on the world. This is the hallmark of the floater in the animal kingdom. A floater is an individual that lacks the strength or the will to claim a territory, so it exists in the shadows of the established pack, eating the scraps and hoping to avoid the attention of the masters. This existence is a biological tragedy. It results in a chronic suppression of serotonin and a sustained elevation of cortisol, which literally erodes your neural tissue over time. You are not flexible. You are degrading. You are waiting for a moment of safety that will never come, because safety is a byproduct of dominance, and dominance requires a root. We are now presecting the neurochemistry of ownership, showing you how to reclaim your territorial instinct and why the nice guy strategy of being a polite guest is a terminal failure of your predatory potential. You are currently being harvested by a system that wants you to be a perpetual nomad, because a nomad is a consumer who can never build a wall. Let us analyze the hormonal architecture of territory. In every social species, the possession of territory is directly linked to the hierarchy of the nervous system. When an individual claims and successfully defends a space, its brain undergoes a status reset. The production of serotonin increases, which smooths out the OODA loop and provides the internal stability required for long-term planning. The individual becomes less reactive to minor stressors and more focused on strategic expansion. Conversely, the tenant, the one who is constantly subject to the rules of another, exists in a state of perpetual subordination. Your brain is constantly receiving signals that you are low status because you do not control your environment. This is why you feel that constant underlying sense of imposter syndrome and generalized anxiety. It is not a mental illness. It is a correct biological report of your landless reality. You are a biological subordinate, and your refusal to own your ground is a self-inflicted wound to your own chemistry. You are choosing to operate on a slave frequency, and you wonder why the world treats you like an option rather than a priority. You are a ghost, and the world does not negotiate with shadows. Consider the parasite-host dynamics of the rental matrix. When you rent your life, your home, your car, your digital tools, you are entering into a metabolic contract with a parasite. The landlord, the bank, and the subscription service are not providing a service. They are harvesting your surplus energy to build their own empires. You are a biological battery working 40 hours a week to fund the fortress of the master. You believe you are paying for convenience, but you are actually paying for disenfranchisement. Every dollar of rent is a dollar that could have been used to secure your own route, to buy your own silence, and to harden your own perimeter. Instead, you are handing it over to an entity that views you as a unit of revenue. This is the definition of serfdom. The medieval serf worked the lord's land in exchange for protection and a place to sleep. You do the same, but your lord is a corporate entity entity or a real estate conglomerate. You have the illusion of choice because you can choose which master to pay, but as long as you are paying rent, you are a serf. You must recognize that blind repetition of other people's scenarios, the scenario of the modern professional who owns nothing, is a path to a sovereign bankruptcy. You are a unique biological organism, and your survival requires you to be the master of your own territory. The masses are currently biological drifters, convinced that their digital lifestyle makes them free. They live in co-working spaces, they stay in Airbnbs, and they think they are the masters of the world. They are the most vulnerable organisms on the planet. They have zero thermal mass. When the winter of 2026 arrives, when the debt bubbles pop and the social contracts are torn up, these drifters will have nowhere to go. They will be the first to be evicted, the first to lose their subscriptions, and the first to realize that flexibility is a death trap in a crisis. They have no route to pull from, no fortress to hide in, and no territory to defend. They are short-time preference organisms, and their collapse is inevitable. To move from a drifter to a sovereign, you must first priznaj što ti zavijas. Admit that your freedom is a lie. Admit that you are a landless peasant, and that your current path is leading you toward a state of total biological irrelevance. Recognition of this entrapment is the only way to begin the hunt for territory. You must stop being a guest in the world and start being its owner. The first movement of the territorial extraction is the psychological annexation. You must begin to treat the space you currently inhabit as if you were already the sovereign owner. This means hardening the perimeter of your time, your focus, and your physical environment. You must mark your territory by refusing to allow parasites to enter your space. You must develop a zero-tolerance policy for drama, noise, and distraction. Even if you are currently renting, you must begin to build the owner's infrastructure. This means investing in portable sovereignty, the tools, the knowledge, and the digital assets that no one can take from you. You must prioritize the build over the experience. Every cent you spend on entertainment while you remain a landless serf is an act of self-betrayal. You must have the coldness to live a minimalist predatory life until you have secured your route. This is the standard of the hunt. You must realize that vypiši svoj samje očividně iluzí, the illusion that you have time to wait for the market to drop, or the illusion that your job is a substitute for territory, is a lethal delay. The giants are already buying the earth. If you do not claim your peace now, there will be nothing left but the dust. Finally, we must talk about the sovereignty of the digital fortress. In a world where the physical earth is increasingly controlled by giants, the digital landscape is your only remaining frontier for rapid territorial acquisition. But you must not be a tenant on social media. You must own the means of your own distribution. This is the core purpose of the Protocol 260. It is a structured route designed to help you build YouTube AI empires that act as your digital real estate. While the masses are renting their attention to platforms, you are using those platforms to funnel resources into your own sovereign cash flow engines. You are building an automated territory that generates life force 24/7. This is your winter shield. It is the strogo opisani mashrat for those who realize that samomu ne vitashchit, that you cannot fight the rental matrix with a standard salary. You need algorithmic leverage to buy your way out of serfdom. You are using the most advanced tools of 2026 to secure a territory that no landlord can ever evict you from. Stand up. Stop being a guest. Start being a master and begin the annexation of your future before the lease on your potential expires. Annexation is not an act of diplomacy. It is a clinical manifestation of biological expansion. In the natural order, a territory that is not growing is a territory that is already beginning to contract. There is no such thing as a stable border in the arena of the persistence hunt. There is only the line where your current strength meets the resistance of the environment. Most of you are currently living in a state of territorial paralysis. You are so afraid of the friction of expansion that you have allowed your borders to become porous. You have allowed your time to be annexed by the social machine, your focus to be annexed by the digital giants, and your energy to be annexed by the parasites you call family and friends. You are a sovereign in name only, presiding over a kingdom that is being dismantled piece by piece while you watch from the window of a rented room. To reverse this decay, you must master the tactics of annexation. You must learn how to reclaim the ground that has been stolen from you and how to mark your territory with such biological authority that the world no longer views you as a guest, but as a permanent and lethal fixture of the landscape. We are now presecting the mechanics of territorial expansion, showing you how to build a zero-risk zone within your own life and why your current politeness is the primary reason your borders are being violated. You are currently a colony being harvested by the masters of the matrix, and the only way to stop the extraction is to begin an aggressive counter-annexation of your own potential. Let us analyze the biology of the border. In the wild, a boundary is not a suggestion, it is a biohazard signal to the unevolved. A predator marks its territory with chemical signals that trigger a fear response in any intruder. It says, within this line, your life is forfeit. In the modern world, your chemical signal is your unrelenting consistency and your zero-tolerance policy. When you allow someone to waste 10 minutes of your time, you are signaling that your borders are open for looting. When you allow a landlord to dictate the terms of your existence without a counter-strategy, you are signaling that you are a floater with no internal law. To begin the annexation, you must first psychologically annex your own day. You must mark the golden hours of your mission and defend them with a clinical aggression that shocks the nice guys around you. You must create a red zone where no phone calls, no emails, and no human dramas are permitted to enter. This is the first sovereign route. From this small, hardened center, you begin to push the borders outward. You annex your finances by cutting the subscription leaks. You annex your digital presence by moving your audience from rented platforms to your own sovereign databases. You are performing a biological reclamation of your own life force. But look at your current state. Your borders are a mess. You are open for business to every parasite with a tragedy. You are a public park where the unevolved come to dump their emotional trash. You must priznaj što ti zavias, admit that you have no borders and that your current openness is actually a form of biological nakedness. Consider the physics of territorial consolidation. Once you have reclaimed a piece of ground, whether it is an hour of your day or a unit of your capital, you must harden it immediately. This is the fortress protocol. You do not leave your assets exposed. You wrap them in layers of digital and legal sinew. You use the tools of 2026 to ensure that what you own is unhackable and unseizable. This is why the long-time preference is the only strategy that matters. While the masses are using their feast to buy toys that the giant can take away, the sovereign man uses his surplus to buy strategic high ground. He buys the tools of production, the AI-driven engines, the server space, the private networks that allow him to operate outside the rental matrix. He understands that slepo povtorenie czuzich scenariev, put vinikuda, that following the consumer script is a guarantee of eventual eviction. You must write your own script of annexation. You must be the one who determines who enters your space and what the entry tax will be. If someone wants your attention, they must pay in information or resource contribution. If they cannot pay, they do not exist. This is the coldness of the owner. It is the only way to protect the zero-risk zone where your true mission is being built. We must address the annexation of the digital frontier. In the era of the Great Reset, the physical Earth is increasingly locked behind the walls of the giants, but the digital landscape is still a zone of primal fluidity. However, most of you are entering this frontier as digital serfs. You are building your homes on Instagram land. You are storing your wealth in centralized banks, and you are running your business on rented software. You are setting yourself up for a digital eviction that will leave you with nothing but a deleted account and a broken heart. To be a sovereign in 2026, you must annex your own distribution. You must own the nerves of your business. This is where the protocol 260 becomes your primary tactical advantage. It is a strogo opisani marshrat designed to help you build YouTube AI empires that are not just channels, but digital estates. They are systems that you own, that you control, and that harvest energy from the global market 24/7 without requiring the master's permission. You are moving from a sharecropper who hopes the algorithm likes him to a landowner who understands the physics of the algorithm. You are using the most advanced territorial tools of our age to secure a kingdom that is immune to the rental matrix. The first movement of your territorial expansion is the clinical extraction of the non-essential. You cannot expand your borders if you are carrying the weight of 1,000 useless dependencies. You must shed the fur. You must look at every recurring payment, every social obligation, and every professional responsibility and ask, is this a stone in my wall or a hole in my perimeter? If it is a hole, you must plug it with the cold indifference of a hunter. You must become lean and lethal. You must reach a state where your fixed costs are so low that you can survive a decade-long winter, while your output remains so high that you can annex a new market every year. This is the standard of the apex. But you are too afraid of missing out. You are too afraid that if you close your borders, the world will forget you. The truth is the opposite. The world only respects what it cannot easily access. By making yourself a mystery and your territory a fortress, you increase your biological value 1,000-fold. You must vypíši svoj samě očividně iluzí, especially the illusion that you need more people in your life to be powerful. You don't need people, you need territory and tools. Finally, we must talk about the sovereignty of the final perimeter. The hunt for territory is not a project, it is a perpetual war against entropy. The moment you stop defending your borders, the environment will begin to reclaim them. You must be the eternal sentinel of your own life. You must realize that samomu nevitaščit, that you cannot defend your sovereignty against the giants of 2026 using the primitive methods of the past. You need the algorithmic armor of the modern age. You need the structured route that allows you to bypass the rental matrix and build your own reality. The YouTube AI Masterclass is the map to the high ground. It is the tactical manual for the annexation of the digital future. You can continue to be a tenant of the matrix, paying your life tax until you are empty, or you can become the sovereign owner of your own destiny. The choice is yours. The land is being taken, the fences are being built. Annex your future or prepare for your eviction. We have reached the terminal phase of the territorial hunt, the zero-risk integration. You have mapped the perimeter, you have initiated the annexation of your time and focus, and you have audited the linguistic traps of the rental matrix. Now, you must achieve the final biological transformation from a tenant of the earth to its sovereign master. Most men fail here because they mistake the acquisition of a deed for the acquisition of power. They believe that if they simply sign a contract and pay a mortgage, they are free. They do not realize that they have merely traded one landlord for another, the bank. To the apex predator, territory is not a liability to be financed. It is a fortress of extraction. It is the hardened base from which you launch your strikes into the market and into which you retreat to process the harvest in absolute silence. We are now precepting the final architecture of sovereignty, showing you how to turn your ground into a zero-risk zone that is physically and digitally toxic to any outside interference, and why your refusal to claim this ground today is the definitive proof of your own eventual recycling. The lease on your potential is expiring, the giants are moving in, and the only question is whether you will be the owner of the landscape or the dust upon its floor. Let us analyze the biology of the sovereign stronghold. In the unyielding cycles of the savannah, a territory is not just a place to sleep, it is a metabolic amplifier. It is a zone where every element, the light, the sound, the security, and the resources, is optimized for the maximum efficiency of the hunter. When you own your ground, you eliminate the cognitive friction of being a guest. You no longer need to ask for permission to harden your perimeter. You no longer need to worry about the social immune system of a landlord or a community that wants you to be small and predictable. You are the only law. This internal stability allows your nervous system to enter a state of hyper-focus that is impossible for the floater to achieve. While the serfs are wasting their energy on adjusting to their ever-changing rented environments, the sovereign is deepening his roots. He is building the digital and physical sinew that will allow his dynasty to survive for generations. You must recognize that your current flexibility is a biological handicap. You are a tree with no soil, a predator with no den, and a soldier with no trench. You are wide open to the winter of 2026, and your lack of a fortress is a signal of your own low-status submission. Consider the entropy of the landless. Every day you spend without owned territory is a day you are losing the war of attrition. You are paying a metabolic tax to a system that views you as an expendable unit of revenue. You are building someone else's equity with your life force. You are a biological host for a corporate parasite, and the result is the inevitable collapse of your own potential. The nice guy believes that it's cheaper to rent or that the market is too high. These are the excuses of the prey. The apex predator knows that the price of territory is irrelevant compared to the cost of serfdom. He would rather own a cell in the desert than rent a palace in the city, because the cell is a foundation while the palace is a cage. You must priznaj što ti zavias. Admit that your current lifestyle is a trap designed to keep you in a state of perpetual debt and dependence. You are following the blind repetition of the prey scenario, moving from one rented box to another until you are too old to work and too poor to stay. This is the endgame of the serf. If you do not break this cycle now, you are choosing to be a ghost in a world of owners. The masses are currently digital sharecroppers, laboring in the fields of Silicon Valley and the rental markets of the global elites. They have been convinced that ownership is a burden and that subscriptions are freedom. This is the ultimate predatory reframing. If you do not own the ground you stand on and the servers that host your data, you are a ghost in the machine. In 2026, the only real security is full-stack sovereignty. This means owning your home, owning your tools, and owning your distribution. This is why you must vypíši svoj samě očividně iluzí regarding your current job or your social safety net. These are not assets. They are rented permissions that can be revoked at any moment. To be a sovereign, you must move your resources out of the rental matrix and into hard assets that you control with absolute authority. You must become the zero-risk organism that can survive the collapse of any bank, any platform, and any government. The first movement of the final territorial integration is the clinical securing of the digital route. Since the physical earth is increasingly occupied by the giants, your fastest route to sovereignty is the acquisition of digital land. You must build a kingdom that generates life force independently of your location. This is where the protocol 260 Dars becomes your most lethal weapon. It is the strogo opisani marshrat designed to help you build YouTube AI empires that act as your sovereign digital estates. While the masses are renting their attention to platforms for likes, you are using the most advanced algorithms of 2026 to funnel resources into your own unhackable cash flow engines. You are building an automated fortress that harvests energy from the global market 24/7. This is your winter shield. It is the only way to buy your way out of serfdom and into the physical territory you require. You are using digital leverage to achieve physical sovereignty. You are realizing that samomu ne vitashchit, that you cannot fight the rental matrix with a standard paycheck. You need the algorithmic edge to claim your piece of the earth. Finally, we must talk about the sovereignty of the final stand. The hunt for territory is the defining struggle of our species. It is the filter that separates the serfs from the sovereigns. You have reached the end of the line. You have the information, you have the radar, and you have the protocols. The only thing left is the sovereign will to claim. You can continue to be a nomad of the matrix, paying your life tax until you are recycled, or you can become the owner of your own reality. You can be the one who is evicted, or you can be the one who builds the walls. For those who are ready to stop being guests and start being masters, the YouTube AI Masterclass is the map to the high ground. It is the tactical manual for the annexation of your future. Take the strogo opisani marshrat, secure your digital route, and buy your freedom from the masters of the matrix. The choice is yours. The land is disappearing. The fences are closing in. Claim your